Early morning on June 22nd, news outlets started reporting that New York rapper Lil Tjay was in an altercation where firearms were used. With two different stories being released, here's what really happened to Lil Tjay. According to news reports, in Edgewater area of New Jersey, Lil Tjay alongside two friends named Jeffrey Valdez and Antoine Boyd were ran up on in a Chipotle parking lot. As TJ and his two friends were inside of their vehicle, suspect Muhammad K, age 27, ran up on Lil Tjay driving in a white BMW with a driver. Holding a firearm near his waistband with his window rolled down, he demands that Lil Tjay gives up his diamond-studded Rolex alongside his chains. After Lil Tjay and his boys refused, Muhammad is then seen raising his firearm up near the window, where it was then visible, and then he begins stepping out of his vehicle, getting closer to Lil Tjay where he was sitting in the car. Once again, demanding to give up the jewelry that Tjay was wearing, emotions started running very high. Allegedly, one of Tjay's friends then make a sudden move, which made Muhammad start using his firearm towards Lil Tjay in the vehicle. Lil Tjay, being the closest to Muhammad inside of the vehicle, took a majority of the damage from the suspect. One of Lil Tjay's friends was also affected during this situation, but not nearly as bad as Tjay. The third person that Lil Tjay was with then brought out his firearm, started retaliating against Muhammad, defending his boys, especially Lil Tjay, who was clearly seen in very bad condition. Muhammad was then seen falling to the ground as Tjay's boy connected a few while he was trying to get back into his BMW. The driver of the BMW hops out of the vehicle, grabs Muhammad, and then drags him back into the car, covering him in mulch as well as his shoes falling off. The driver of the BMW then speeds over to the local hospital. Meanwhile, an ambulance was already on the way to help Lil Tjay and his friend. Bubba, Lil Tjay's cousin, was affected as well. He got out of this with no serious damage done, but it is worth noting. Now, it was Lil Tjay who obviously was the main target. While waiting for the ambulance, Valdez and Boyd try calming down Lil Tjay. The ambulance then arrives and he starts saving Lil Tjay, which was successful. Lil Tjay arrives to the hospital via an ambulance in serious critical condition. Thankfully, paramedics and doctors were able to get the processes and surgeries done, which then upgraded Tjay from critical to stable condition. Now here's where the story gets interesting. Lil Tjay being rushed to the same local hospital as Muhammad. Now in New York City, there's cameras everywhere. You can't really commit a crime like this without being caught these days. Now as mentioned earlier, Muhammad was affected by Tjay's boy while trying to run away. Well, in the process of running, his shoes then fell off into the parking lot. He then fell into mulch near the curb, where he was then dragged on the mulch into his vehicle. As Muhammad fell into the mulch, everything just went silent at the scene. It's most likely as Tjay's friend was checking up on him and wasn't too focused on Muhammad. Lil Tjay's friend, who ended up retaliating against Muhammad in this situation, was actually also arrested and is being charged with firearm use. But this is when the driver for Muhammad stepped out of the BMW and picked him up, dragging him across the mulch and pavement. It's important to note that he did not pick up the shoes that Muhammad was wearing. His shoes were left in the same parking lot at the crime scene, which was later claimed by the feds when they arrived to the scene. He was then rushed to the local hospital by his driver, with no shoes on and covered in mulch. Those two statements were written on his paperwork when he arrived to the hospital. The police then realized this was the same mulch found at the crime scene by the feds after they did their investigation. This makes it an easy open and shut case, which is great news. Muhammad is being charged with attempted armed robbery, and firearm offenses. Before getting into an update on Lil Tjay's health, here's what the streets reveal happened to Lil Tjay. Everything I mentioned is record from the police and said in court. But here's where YouTuber Hassan Campbell comes in. Popular YouTuber with connections in the streets got a different word of what really happened to Lil Tjay. Follow along. Now he mentions the police is covering up this entire thing for the hotel property that this happened on. The Chipotle parking lot is actually a part of a hotel, but it has a Chipotle inside of it. Hassan mentions Lil Tjay was sitting in a parked vehicle outside of the hotel in New York. Lil Tjay was sitting in the parked car with his cousin Bubba. The third friend wasn't even in the vehicle. Instead, the third friend was upstairs in a hotel room using the restroom at a very convenient time. Now, when the situation broke down, he stayed in the bathroom, which is pretty interesting. The suspect, Muhammad, who initially ran up on Lil Tjay, was also still affected by a firearm, but it wasn't from Lil Tjay's crew. Hassan mentions that there was multiple men with firearms trying to run up on Lil Tjay. One of them accidentally did it to Muhammad, so none of Tjay's boys actually retaliated at all. This is when Muhammad fell to the ground when one of the suspects going after Tjay then quickly picks up Muhammad, dragging him through the bushes and mulch to their vehicle that's nearby. That way they can get away. His shoes got stuck in the branches of these bushes, which is actually how the shoes fell off. Now this explains the mulch all over Muhammad's clothing, why his shoes fell off as they got stuck in a bush, and all while this is going down to Lil Tjay and his cousin Bubba, the third friend is still in the bathroom inside of the hotel. Now this raises the question of, was Lil Tjay targeted? Did Lil Tjay's friend set him up? And how did this guy go to the bathroom at such a convenient time? Hassan is very connected to the streets. Personally, I believe him more than the feds in this situation. But let me know what you think in the comments on what you believe. Now, as for a timeline and update on Lil Tjay's health, here's where it gets concerning. Once arriving to the hospital, an emergency surgery was started, which helped Lil Tjay go from critical to stable condition, which is great news. The concerning part is that Tjay has still not woken up at the time of this video. Now, there was reports of during a small period of time of Lil Tjay's legs moving in the bed. That is when he was resting and still not awake, as he has not woken up since. Medical reports were then released of where Lil Tjay was affected. Doctors announced that they are worried about a few things. Dr. Raheem Smith said there's a chance Lil Tjay will be paralyzed for the rest of his life. Now, he was hit 5 to 7 times in the chest area with damage to his lungs, as well as 2 in the spine. Doctors fear the spine could cause issues for him for the rest of his life once he does wake up. Now, it is important to note, no one knows if he is paralyzed or not. It was a rumor started on Twitter, but there is fears that he could be. You can't fully tell until he does finally wake up. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're praying for Lil Tjay, leave a like on the video. I'm curious how many people are. Anyways, it's been District Trending, and I'm out. Peace.